Today we are here with Tara Morrison, who is our divine pelvic care guide on the Birthing Soul app. And she's here to share her wisdom, her insights into all things pelvic care, somatic pelvic care. And it's really amazing because I know Tara very personally because she took care of me and my pelvis after I gave birth to my second baby. And the work we did together was absolutely phenomenal. It was life-changing for me. And having had multiple other pelvic PTs before meeting Tara, something was just really different with the work that she does. She's very magical. So welcome, Tara.
Thank you. I'm just receiving all that goodness.
Yeah, share a little bit about yourself and why your pelvic care is so unique.
Yeah. So I am the founder of Sacred Bloom Pelvic Care in Seattle, and I've also created my own modality called Somatic Pelvic Care, which blends traditional pelvic floor care with deeper somatic body-based healing. And as I think we'll talk about later, I'm now integrating some quantum spine energy work into my practice as well. So a lot of traditional pelvic floor care, right, is really just looking at the pelvic floor as a group of muscles. I do think most pelvic floor practitioners know that there's a big tie between the pelvic floor and the nervous system. So someone's stress and emotional state really does affect the pelvic floor. But unfortunately, I don't think all providers are trained or confident in addressing that connection between the brain in the pelvic floor, the emotions in the pelvic floor, or the trauma in the pelvic floor, right? And so I really think that that's an opportunity for pelvic floor PTs to like really step into feeling more confident in that because they are so highly connected. And so my approach is really looking at how is your nervous system functioning, right? Like if you are stressed out, you just had a baby, you're a mom, you're under resourced, you're tired, maybe your baby isn't sleeping well, maybe you're having breastfeeding issues as well, or maybe your baby has hip dysplasia and you got to like navigate this brace, and you're peeing your pants and your back is hurting, right? There's like postpartum is a journey. You can feel really undernourished and undersupported, and your nervous system can be in survival mode. Like, I think it's more common postpartum for women to be in survival than to actually feel nourished and well supported, even often in ideal scenarios. And so, say you walk into a pelvic floor clinic and you're coming in with all of this stress, right? And then they're like, let's just give you some exercises. Let's just work on your pelvic floor. And they're just looking at that one aspect without supporting your nervous system. The truth is your body's just not going to be able to receive the care. Often appointments are short, like 30 minutes, maybe an hour if you're lucky. But if you're not doing that nervous system work, you're not really supporting your body and coming into a state of healing first. And so that's really my approach is that I want to help women have tools to feel resourced and supported in their body. I create a space and an environment that's very intentional. It's very soothing. The table's very comfortable, right? Like everything is set up. The music is nice. Everything's set up so that when you come in, it's like an exhale for your nervous system. So you can lay on the table. You can feel held by the table. You can feel held by me. Your body starts to come in this state where it accepts the support, right? This is a very long explanation, but I think it's
I love it.
important.
I love it.
And when we approach care from that place, then when we do the pelvic floor work, the pelvic floor is more open to receive the work. The nervous system, it feels safer if your body feels seen. And when the body feels seen, it relaxes.
Mm.
And then when you do the exercises, your body's like, hey, I'm actually feeling better. Like, let's work better. Let's fire better. Let's connect these wirings from the brain to the body and let's be more efficient because, oh, finally my body's actually feeling safer than it has in a while. And so the work sticks better. And so you then require less sessions, right?
Mm.
And like and things change and we're not just addressing the physical aspect, but we're really tending to all of you. And so that's kind of my approach, right? Is a weaving in those aspects and then also supporting the integration of, say, if you've had a challenging birth experience, let's actually integrate your story and let's listen to that. Let's do some somatic and energetic practices to move that stuck energy through the body, right? A lot of people say somatic pelvic care feels like to them like a blend of like going to a therapist and a physical therapist at the same time, right? um, so it's really like a blended approach where we're really working to get into the root of
Yeah.
what's happening for you.
Yeah, I love this. I feel it's so resonant for this feeling of safety to be the foundation
Mhm.
of all other care work to come on top of that. And it's like when there's that safety present, when you've nourished the woman as a whole, now the things you're implementing or the emotional releases she's having or the tensions in the pelvic floor that you're shifting can actually do so effectively.
Exactly.
And then, yeah, it makes it if you front load that well-being, then it makes it easier in the long run. And I just think it's so powerful and it gets away from that model of just like, yeah, here's a list of exercises and kind of a little bit reductionist to the muscles and the structures when
Exactly.
it's all infused with the life force of that woman. And
Exactly. And exactly what she needs and what her body needs that day, right? It's not like, "Hey, here are my postpartum exercises, go do them, come back." Right? And, I've had women come to me who have gone to PTs, and they've been in care for a while, their symptoms aren't getting better, they have the same exercises the entire time they're there, right? And
I
then
was
they're starting to feel anxious, right? They're like, "I
yeah.
don't know," or shameful, like, "What's
Mm.
wrong with this? Is this not gonna get better? Am I gonna need surgery?" It's like, you start spiraling because 'cause you're like, "I've been doing this thing that I'm supposed to be doing that works." Everyone says, "Go to pelvic PT, it's amazing, it works." But if it's not working, then, like, what's wrong with me, right? And then they come to me, and I actually take the time to do the work, and they're like, no one actually did release work on them. Like, maybe they, went internal and just checked the muscles real quick, but didn't take the time to do release work internally in the bowl. Or maybe they didn't even check internally at all. Or maybe they just used a device to assess muscle strength and tone without actually like really feeling internally what's happening in the bowl. Right. And those are just giving like a limited snapshot. And sometimes that's all the resources you have available. I want to also say that pelvic floor isn't offered everywhere. There's a lot of small towns in this country and our world where access to pelvic PT is low. And so, you might be going to a provider and that's kind of the best care possible for where you're at. And um, trusting that like something is better than nothing too.
Yeah.
Right. Um, but I do think that there is a deeper standard of care that should be elevated in terms of pelvic PTs, and that's also why I teach other pelvic PTs this somatic pelvic care modality as well, because I think that we all need to be stepping into this work
Yeah.
and being able to hold in this way, because it really does make it's life changing. It's pelvic PT should be life changing, and our pelvis is our seat of our power, our life force lives there, right? And as pelvic PTs, we really should be cultivating that
Yeah, more of a
ourselves.
reverence.
Yeah,
Reverence to
exactly.
that and
Yeah.
how I feel often with somatic, which really just means body-based and integrated with the psyche and the emotions, like with somatic care models, it can feel very mystical, I think, when you're experiencing it, and yet a lot of it is just skills-based, it's
Mhm.
and I think that's what we value a lot at the Birthing Soul is fusing practical, grounded exercises and skills that feel very intuitive and magical and
Uh-huh.
powerful and transformational, and just kind of having both of those pathways. And that's why also I'm so glad to have you on the app, because you share these exercises that you can do at home, which, by the way, we feel the most safe and secure off usually in our home.
Uh-huh.
The nervous
Yeah.
system, it's like you walk in the door and you're just like, huh, you let down. So doing some of this stuff at home, I think, is really beautiful. Plus, we have a lot of the emotional pieces and guidance to find those caretakers in your community that are going to be best fit for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So, with the pelvis, there's so
Okay.
much here.
Yeah.
With the pelvis, right? Energetically, physically, emotionally, what do you see here? What is the energy? What are women coming to you with? What are we addressing here?
Yeah. I think I'm going to start on like what I would say the surface level, right? The surface level, what people are coming to me for is often prolapse, right? Heaviness in their vagina, incontinence, um, pelvic pain, right? Maybe they're having pain inside their pelvic or in their hips, or their pain inside their pelvis, their hips, their low back. Um, Maybe they are worried about diastasis recti, which is that separation in the abdominal region. Maybe they're actually having a hard time initiating going to the bathroom, or they're going very frequently. And maybe they have pain with intercourse with sex, right? Or maybe they know that they've had a challenging or a traumatic birth experience. They feel really disconnected from their body. Things just don't feel right all over the place. And they want that kind of combination of the physical and the emotional aspect woven together. Um, so I feel like those are the things that at least I see the most. There's other, sometimes there can be leakage um, of poop as well, or constipation. So really, it's like anything having to do with pooping or peeing or having sex, anything that goes in and out of the pelvis postpartum is really what I see a lot of in terms of symptoms. When we look a layer deeper, let's go to the emotions, right? The pelvic bowl, people always talk about, you hold trauma and emotions in your hips, right? And like really, we hold tension everywhere in our body. It's not just the pelvis, but the pelvis is an area where we tend to store um, a lot of unprocessed emotions. There can be unprocessed grief that we hold in the bowl. Even if you're someone who had a cesarean, excuse me, I should have said that earlier. Post cesarean scar work is something else I see, or pain with your scar, or just feeling weak after having a cesarean is also something common that I see. So, say for example, you had a cesarean that was not planned, right? You had a birth that went a different way than you were planning. Often that scar can hold emotions from your birth experience inside of it, right? And so when we're working on the scar, we may also be tapping into emotions that are held under the surface. So being able to hold that space as emotions arise. In the pelvis, there's also ties to both feminine and masculine energetics. And I really love the work of Tammy Lynn Kent. She's a pelvic PT in Portland, and she wrote a book called The Wild Feminine. I know you've read it, Britta. She has a few other books, but her work really paved the way, at least for me, in my initial understanding of how the energetics of the pelvic bowl and the emotions that we can hold there. Um, and, I've seen patterns of like people pleasing and like generational, like feminine lineage patterns around people pleasing in the pelvic bowl, for example. That's just one of them. And we can really feel like the way we try to control things, right? Like, especially in the back of the bowl and in that anal area, if we're really tight, right? Like, you just think about it, you get stressed, you clench your jaw, you squeeze your butt, right? Like, it's not, and it's actually really simple in a way if you think about it and you understand the connection between the nervous system and the pelvic floor. Another way we can think about this, like going, I guess, a little layer deeper into the energetics of the pelvic bowl and the pelvic floor, is that the root chakra, right, is at the base of the pelvis, that is at the layer of the pelvic floor. And that is our sense of safety, security, and belonging, right? And so if we don't feel safe in some way, if we don't feel like we belong, if we aren't secure inside of ourselves, then there can be disruptions in that. We can see that in the physical, even though it might be an energetic or emotional tie, right?
Mhm.
And so that again kind of points to where that nervous system piece is so important in helping people feel safe in their body, present, and then the deeper work of um, unwinding some of the things that keep us from that connection to ourselves, so we really can feel at home in our bodies. Which to me, that sense of feeling connected and at home in myself also ties into that sense of like really feeling like I belong here.
Yeah. Well, in the root chakra that you're describing, I always just think about energetically how at birth, it first of all, it holds so much during pregnancy.
Mhm.
It's holding this weight and in that way is meant to really strengthen and then like stretches and opens into new physical ways and energetic
Dimension.
expressions because as a mother you have to hold more sense of safety and belonging because you're holding it now for your
Yeah.
babies.
Yeah.
And so there's this massive energetic shift that then, when not given the care and attention in the postpartum to like restore and reconnect and do that work, then I think it's left feeling very open and ungrounded.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I see that that really does have long term emotional, physical, consequences and
Yeah.
symptoms.
Totally. Yeah, I'd agree with that. And really energetically, the way we root, where we root into the earth or ground ourselves, we can ground through our feet, but the most potent place that we can ground through is through our perineum,
Mhm.
right? And so just imagine, like, yeah, you had a baby come out, you had some tearing in your perineum. Now maybe you're not as connected to the earth. Like, oh, you're doing all of these things, you're not sleeping, you feel really ungrounded, right? And you had this tear here, and then maybe you have some scar tissue forming there as well. Like, what is that doing to your ability to really connect and ground into the body and into the earth? And I love that part of the thing I love about this app, about the Birthing Soul app, is that we reconnect you to that, right? We That's something that's so easy for us to do in a meditation, right? And I know there's pelvic floor grounding meditations in there, and I'm working on a universal resourcing meditation that's going to be kind of a tapping into that same thing. And so it's so beautiful that like we can do this work and support people outside of just them coming into the clinic. And so much I think can be done in this energetic realm and in our own bodies and in the comfort of our own home too.
Yeah. It's huge, and it's making
Yeah.
me think too about, like, sleep disruption, and I don't think a lot of people necessarily think about the root chakra with sleep disruption, but it's actually one of the first things to focus on is grounding to get better sleep
Hmm.
because the root connects actually to the crown.
Yeah.
So and that is so much implicated in birth, you open at the crown, you open at the root, and then
Yeah.
you gotta just seal her up again.
Yeah. And
It's
I also think with that, right, like birth really opens everything up, right? And I also, this is one of my philosophies, I guess, or theories, or how I feel into it. So you can tell me if you feel into this as well. But we have this huge opening in our energetic system,
Mhm.
bigger than most people have ever experienced in their lives, as long as you went through birth in some way, vaginal birth, and you had contractions. If you had a planned C-section for some reason, your experience was different. I think it's still a portal nonetheless, but it's not the same energetic opening. But I think we have this big opening, and then what happens, right? We don't know how to tend to it. We don't know how to ground. We don't know how to close it. We don't know how to be with it. We're more sensitive around us. We're like absorbing things that are ours and aren't ours for people
Mhm.
around us. We're not sleeping, and then we collapse. women
Absolutely.
collapse because they
Yep.
can't hold it. And I think that also can be a driver, more of an energetic driver of the postpartum depression
Yep.
that people feel is this things didn't I think that's why they do closing of the bone ceremonies
Right.
too in like Mexican traditions and other traditions to like wrap the body to bring us back into this containment. How do we actually close back up? How do we recontain the vessel
Mhm.
um and bring things together? So
Yes.
maybe
100%.
not as pelvic oriented, but I think it's still really important.
Yeah, and I think that opening process can feel, vulnerable, but also in some ways very euphoric when you're getting to know your
Oh, of
baby
course.
and you have these
Yeah.
rush of hormones. And what I see is then this early window in the first couple months postpartum of like, well, I still feel actually really good and it feels good to get back out there and I've got this baby. And sometimes it's not feeling good, of course, but often I see with those women who are feeling good in that early time, but haven't done the closing energetic work, the containment, the realignment to their new self, the collapse can come a lot later than expected. And I
Yeah.
see that I've mentioned before, like months and months down the road, month 6, 7, 8, 9 of postpartum, of like having not done that. And so I think there's a little bit of a misnomer. And I imagine you're seeing a lot of pelvic care clients who are later in their journey. It's not,
Yeah.
you're not seeing them a week or 2 postpartum, maybe.
Yeah. No, I mean, it can
You're
be years
seeing them
postpartum.
with ongoing issues that then you
Yeah,
kinda have to go back and reverse
exactly.
into a lot more and excavate more, rather than I
Yeah,
feel the focus of the birthing soul is to try to kinda prevent some of that stuff. Like, let's just
totally.
set you on a great path. Stuff's always gonna come up in life,
Of course.
but how you meet those challenges can be a lot more solid and strong and
Yeah.
supported.
Yeah. Exactly. Mm.
Amazing. I love this conversation. Uh,
Everyone listening, like, I just wish we had this resource when we had kids, when we
exactly,
had our kids. Like, this was so missing like,
but I
the
wish
depth and the connection and
yeah,
yeah.
when I found you, I was like, a match. Like, be held when I'm usually the one holding and creating this,
Yeah,
and then to
exactly.
be held by it was so profound, and,
Mm.
I know what you've mentioned, and I know a lot of your work also has to do with the retelling and the healing of your birth story, of birth trauma, things like that. Would you share a little bit about your focus on that?
Yeah, totally. Um, I'll just share briefly that after my first birth experience, I was planning a home birth and ended up having to transfer to the hospital, and I felt like just things kind of unraveled from there. And the birth that I wanted, that I was like thought I'd be really proud of having, didn't happen. And I remember being at the hospital and really thinking like, how am I going to tell people that
Uh,
one, I gave birth at the hospital, and two, that I got an epidural?
uh,
And like really feeling this like sense of like I failed and like feeling the sense of like shame come over me. And I was telling my doula about that afterwards, and she was like, well, one, like, empathizing with me. But two, she's like, it often takes women years to recognize that that's what's going on. Like
uh,
that's the internal story and that's the beliefs in the shadow that came up. And so I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I think just being in the work that I'm in and in my spiritual journey and aware, I was able to connect to that. But I think that inspired me to want to learn more about what comes up in birth for people and how to help them connect to the deeper threads that are coming up and the actual medicine that's available in your birth story.
uh,
Because when we really start to tease apart birth, like birth isn't just an event that happens to us, it's a rite of passage, right? And so it's like stripping us, it's stripping away these things, these masks, these behaviors, really not just the birth event itself. I think this starts in pregnancy, right? This is like the walking into the labyrinth of birth, right? we have a lot of labyrinth imagery in the birthing soul, right? So it's like going into this underworld journey that's like stripping these parts of ourselves, right? For me, I needed to see like how much of my worth I had put in my birth experience, like how much of my worth I had put into this thing. And to be able to actually like really look at that and look at the places where I was trying to seek something outside of myself to prove that I was worthy,
Mm.
right? And I needed to see that so I could like shift that narrative for myself and for my children, right? And so in this way, it's like our birth experiences, or maybe you have a beautiful birth, but you have a really challenging breastfeeding journey, or we don't know what's going to be the hard part, what's going to be the underworld journey, what's going to be stripping us. And then we have our children that are these beautiful mirrors, right? That continue this journey, and that's where matrescence that doesn't end once you have your baby. It's like a 5-year journey and you have another kid in the mix, and then you gotta add up another 5 years, you know? My youngest is 5. I'm like, "Yeah, I get it." Like, I'm
Right.
finally, like, really feeling into myself again,
Yeah, our kids are
Like,
almost the
"Oh,
same
there
age
she
as
is."
you,
Yeah, it's
and
like
our timelines are really similar with that, and it's like
yeah,
with my 4.5-year-old, I think I shared last year, so she was, like, about 3.5, and I was crying to TikTok about
yeah,
how I was doing, like, my abdominal womb massage and still trying to reclaim depletion from my postpartum eras
yeah,
3.5 years later, you know?
yeah,
And
yeah,
I think but actually so many women are decades later trying to reclaim that. So 3.5 years
yeah,
is actually a
actually not that bad.
decent timeline, I think, for our
Totally. I mean, I've been on my own journey of getting out of burnout, same. Like I was so depleted having two kids under 2 and a business that I was growing, and that maybe I could have made better decisions in
but
terms of timing of things, but
well,
when our soul calls, we gotta
I mean, was anyone talking about postnatal depletion when I was pregnant? Absolutely not. I remember reading the 4th trimester when I was, like, 6 months postpartum, and I'm like, "Great." That's when it came out, you know? Shout out to Kimberly Johnson because wow,
She
amazing
was
work there,
amazing.
but
Yeah,
just nobody even really knew the word postpartum when I
yeah,
was giving birth to my first. It just was not in the
yeah,
zeitgeist. And yes, I think kind of what I'm hearing you say with this birth story medicine is just how, because it is a rite of passage, it pushes us to excavate the conditioning that we have picked up in our life. Like you're
mhm,
talking about having young kids and doing it all and running businesses. Again, like ditto. I think we're just really similar in that way.
mhm,
And it's been through years of peeling back these layers of being like, maybe I could still be worthy if I do a little bit less.
exactly.
Like, maybe and how birth actually reveals those stories about ourself,
Yeah,
willing
exactly,
to slow down and listen to that.
exactly.
It does require slowing down, though, which is
Yes.
deeply uncomfortable, I
Very
feel.
uncomfortable, very
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
And there's still like, there's so much externalizing in the giving birth space, right? And blaming and shaming the system, which deserves its due blame.
Yes.
Absolutely. But I think we see more and more, right? Like I was planning a home birth with my first, and that was crazy, right? People are like,
Yeah,
wait till your second. I was
yeah,
like,
totally.
I'm giving birth now,
Yeah, why wait?
and but I do think we see that a lot, right? Like traumatic first birth, and then there's these like push for redemption with
Exactly.
later
Yeah.
birth. Although I will say I'm seeing more and more too women not having subsequent babies given the experiences they're having and the
Yeah, I get that a lot. A lot of women coming in, either they're pregnant again or they, like, want to be pregnant, but they're afraid to get pregnant because of their birth experience, right?
yes.
And I love working with these women because I know it is possible to, like, get onto the other side, and I've supported so many women who had very traumatic births and recoveries, and they've gone on to have beautiful second births, and I don't know that we should like try to have a redemptive birth experience, or you shouldn't get pregnant to like have a redemptive birth experience. But like, I also think it's okay to want to get on the other side of fear and to actually really touch into your power in birth.
Uh-huh.
That maybe I think we all have this, especially women who want to birth naturally without medication, whether you want to do that in a hospital or at home. I think there's this desire. I was just having this conversation with a pregnant woman yesterday to tap into this like primal innate power that we have as women. That's what birth grants us: permission and the opportunity to feel, maybe for the first time in our lives as women. Because in our society, when do we actually tap into that? We're not in circles, we're not drumming, we're not doing the things that give us the opportunity to really tap into that primal spot,
Uh-huh.
right? Unless you're doing like initiatory work and spiritual work already, to claim that for yourself. And a lot of this is connecting to our sexual energy as well, and how much shame and compression and, oh God, what's the word I'm looking for? Restriction we've put on our sexual energy,
Mm.
right? And our life force, right? I mean, really, that's when we're talking about our innate primal power. Like, that's our
Yeah.
that's our life force.
Oh, yeah, let's go here. Let's talk about sexuality in pelvic care.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Well, you're naming this power that women
Yeah,
are desiring to get into,
yeah, totally.
and how that's connected to sexuality. Birth is connected to sexuality. Our
Yeah,
power is
totally.
connected to
Yeah,
that in all
yeah,
these ways, you know?
yeah, yeah. So, I think that talking about birth and sexuality and our sexual energy, right? It's like what gets a baby inside is often what helps get a baby outside, right? And so often there are these woundings that we have, right? And these ways that we've stopped ourselves from actually really fully connecting to that part of ourselves. Or maybe we have the drive to have sex and procreate because we really want to have a family. And then after baby comes, maybe you've had a few babies and you don't actually have that drive anymore. It's like, where did it go? Like, what's your purpose for actually having sex?
Mm,
Right. And there's so many things that tie into whether you feel your sexual energy before or after. And I really think even that early postpartum can be a very sensual and sexual time. I think breastfeeding can be a sensual act. And a lot of people feel afraid if they feel sexual or sensual energy while they're breastfeeding their baby. They might think it's like wrong or shameful and like even shut that down. But really that to me, that's a sign that if you're having that while you're breastfeeding, that's actually a sign of nourishment. That's a sign that you're, like, connected. That's a sign that your body is flowing.
right.
I think that to me, that's actually a positive thing. It's not a negative thing, but even just feeling into, why would someone think that feeling sensual energy in your body postpartum, why would that be a bad thing,
Yeah.
right? Like, why are we disconnecting motherhood from sexual energy?
Well, and mothers are who lay the roadmap for a child's intimacy. But
Exactly.
a child's intimacy needs are just developing at infancy. You know, when they're a
Yeah,
baby, their needs are intimate, close skin to skin connection with mother and other parents too,
yeah,
and that's healthy development.
exactly.
That's ideal, that's optimal,
Yeah,
and lays down these frameworks for later things, but we have cascaded into multiple generations where that hasn't been the case. I think even those early disturbances of close, intimate connection between parents and baby have brought a lot of sexual shadow and overshadowing of what intimacy even is, and fear
yeah,
and
yeah,
shame, even just starting at birth.
yeah,
But we can change it.
true.
We can change it.
Totally, we can change it. We can even use I was just having this conversation the other day of how when I was, postpartum after my second, I remember taking a shower and I just like decided to wash my face as like slowly and mindfully as I could. And it was like the most pleasurable experience. I was like, oh my gosh, I should do this every time I shower, because here I was like two little kids giving, 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 and like, where's my touch, like, and
Oh.
everyone talks, I don't want to be touched. I don't, I feel touched out. But I think there's elixir in actually allowing ourselves to be present with our own touch, even and receive from ourselves. And what can the right mindful presence with our own body do for ourselves, right? Like it doesn't even have to be in turning on that sensual energy and that like pleasure, right? Like let's take it even out of sex for a second. Like, can we just break down the word sensuality? Like, what is that? It's like being with your senses, right? Like sensuality could be all senses. It could be things that are painful but feels good. It's like senses that feel good,
Mhm.
right? And the more we allow ourselves to be in sensory experiences that feel good, the more we like keep a rhythm to that connection flowing and a rhythm to our life force, whether we're in a phase where we're like, let's get it on, or we're in a phase where like I'm actually really fucking tired
Right.
at the end of the day. And like my life force has been going to like nurturing this thing instead of nurturing that part of my relationship in this phase,
Yeah.
right? But it's like keeping that energy and that connection to self going.
Yeah.
And because when we're connected to that, I think that is our inner well of nourishment, right? We all have this deep inner well of nourishment within ourselves.
Mhm.
And the way we're doing postpartum, the way most people are doing postpartum is through depleting that well and overgiving and overgiving and overgiving, which is leading to that depletion we talked about,
Mhm.
right? Instead of like, how do I actually come back to my well? How do I fill my well? Maybe with these like gentle touch practices, maybe with these breathing practices and these meditations that were and journal prompts that we're supporting you with in the birthing soul. All of these are like beautiful practices of coming back, connecting to that well,
Yeah.
right? Filling it up. And it's from that full well that you can like really give.
Mm.
And that might feel sensual to give
Right.
from that place.
Yes, and
And what a beautiful gift.
I love this visual of this inner well of nourishing yourself and even how, yeah, in the early postpartum is not going to likely be your season of your peak sexual expression in the way that it
No.
used to be, right? Or in
Yeah,
partnered sex
exactly.
or in the ways
Yeah.
that we think about sex, but you're kind of redefining it here as allowing that embodied enjoyment and desire to exist in that place. And
Yeah.
I think there's so much value to recognize a desire, even if the desire can't necessarily, come to pass at the moment. But
Exactly.
desire alone is sometimes it's like,
It's enough.
the first half of the whole experience is just the wanting of it.
Yeah. Exactly.
The wanting and the imagining and envisioning of getting back to intimacy with my partner or having new intimate experiences with my partner of being held while breastfeeding or being touched or nurtured in different ways as a
Hmm.
mother. I think just upholding these things as valuable and
Yeah.
not just less than because it's different.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
And that maybe that is the one thing you get is to wash your face and do this thing, and it's like, because like, we all know that feeling of getting a true shower in the early
Yeah.
postpartum. There may be phantom cries, there may be, all these things, but it's like, yes, it is, it's so sacred and kind of weaving it all together into that tapestry that kinda sets the stage, I feel like, for later sexual expression and, oh gosh,
Yeah.
we could go so much into the
We could go into
sexual
this.
mother,
Yeah.
and maybe that's just another conversation for us to have.
Totally.
Because mothers and sexuality are just yeah, we're here, we're ready for it.
Totally. Yeah.
So, Where do we go from here? We've touched on this, like, we've touched on, all these things, and I think that's why pelvic care is so profound, and hands-on pelvic care can be so, so beautiful with the pelvic care provider, and there's so much you can do for yourself or with a partner, I find.
Mhm,
It's not exclusive, to being in a clinic. I think
mhm,
there are these ways that you can really just access that on your own and access your intuition.
mhm.
But what do you feel like, how do you feel that the work that you're providing through the app, the Fluid Core series and things like this, like, how is this supporting mothers on their journey?
Yeah, let's talk about fluid core. So often, I think there's this narrative around, right? Like, let's get our bodies back. We got to re strengthen our core and get our
Mm,
abs, and right, like all this, like, let's strengthen, let's, get back to the gym, let's get our body back, right? Which is like often very like compressive on the body. It's like, let's strengthen, let's do all these things. But what I like to think of when I think of the core is more than just, again, muscles. I don't look at the body as just muscles that need, right? Your body didn't just grow and stretch its muscles and have a baby. It's like, what is really our core, right? What is really our pelvic floor? Our core is a set of muscles, but also our diaphragm is part of our deep core, and our pelvic floor and diaphragm, they work and they move together. They're tied to our nervous system. Our hip flexors are, while not primary stabilizers of the core, are also part of that like deep core and trunk system. They're very highly connected to the nervous system as well. When we are afraid or in fight and flight, they help us run from that bear. And when we're in chronic stress or we sit a lot, they can get tight, right? And they can hold on to stress. I remember we did some like juicy hip flexor work together that was like
yes.
pretty profound for you, right?
Just so us.
Yeah. And if we miss that part, we're not doing that, right? We're not, if we just were to strengthen without actually like allowing what's there to release and for your body to ground and to remember that like your body needs to be fluid, your spine needs to be fluid, your rib cage needs to move, you need to be able to like expand and contract your ribs, right? They open and they close. You want good diaphragmatic mobility, you want to restore your breath after everything's been, opened up, being pregnant, right? Yes, you want to bring that core back in. You want to strengthen it, but you want to make sure that your pelvic floor has length and strength. It's not just like Kegels and tight pelvic floor and pull those abs in and get that baby back, right? Like that's so constrictive, right? And what does that do? That just creates more constriction in a system that really is asking for fluidity and stability in that, right? And so that's why I created the Fluid Core series. So we're working on strength, but we're also working on grounding. We're also working on, is my spine moving? We're working on breath. We're coming back to more than just, we're working with the feet and the hips. And it's more than just strengthening, but it's how do we move in a way? How do we honor that our core system, our true core, is more than just muscles? It's actually more tied into the core of us and the beliefs that we carry and the stories that our body carries, right? Our core and our posture and the shape that we take isn't just because of some biomechanical problem, right? If you're carrying shame about your birth experience, how do you think that's going to look,
Yep.
right? In your body. Try to like muscle your way through that.
Right, and you can't.
And you can't. And
I mean,
that's where
I
like,
so much with my just, yeah, posture and standing, and it came through my healing path of just how much I was protecting my heart. I was also wanting to protect my babies, leaning in,
mhm,
breastfeeding, sort of covering them. I had also all this pain in my left wrist that released when I went and did this profound healing experience.
yeah,
That again, these are things that I was holding within, and just to do some wrist exercises was not gonna
yeah.
touch this deeper energetic ancestral pattern that I didn't really realize I was carrying,
Realize you're carrying. Yeah.
but it does require you to access it. to explore in that
Exactly.
fluid core way, you know?
Yeah, and I think that brings into kind of this deeper conversation of even where, like, your and my work have evolved into, right? Is that once you start, like, taking off the I don't know, maybe the glasses or their
Yeah.
sunglasses. Take off the sunglasses,
Right.
and you're like, "Oh, wait, I know way less than I thought I did. Here I went to this school, I got my doctorate in, like, how all the muscles and joints work and the biomechanics, right? And then but, like, wait a second, what are these things called emotions? Like, what is this diaphragm? Like, actually, there's, like, something here.
Yeah.
Like, this is not just a muscle, right? Like, there's something here. That was I think I did this, postural restoration training that was, like, very centered on the diaphragm. I was just like, "There's something to this. There's something here I need to explore
Mm.
more," you know? That really took me into emotions, and the more I started doing somatic work to, like, reveal the emotions that the body's carrying, then I'm like, "Wait a second, like, things are shifting, right?" And then, like, "What's this energy I'm feeling?"
Yes.
You know? And then it's like, "Okay, well, what if we just go to the energetic?
Yeah, there's
What
a
does that do?
purity.
And then how do we weave all of that together,
Yeah.
right, of addressing the physical and the emotional and the energetic piece?"
Yes.
Yeah, because you can shift a broken heart
Right.
without growth and not pull downs.
Right, or, like, the thing that you're trying to the symptom or, like, 'cause I came to you with significant chronic pain, you know,
Yeah,
and for years, I had
yeah,
chronic pain, and, I think once you see the evidence, and we've both been on this path, right, of, like, we come at it from, like, the opposite direction, right? You come at it through
mhm,
PT, and I'm coming through mental health and therapy, and I'm seeing my mental health clients through the somatic and energetic work heal their chronic pain and their chronic
mhm,
inflammation and their chronic, you know, other stuff. And you're seeing, oh, if we go to the emotional route, then it's shifting the physical. And then, right, this pipeline that opens up the energetic pathway too, which
mhm.
is just about this deeper listening to the body, to the emotions. And then it's like almost as if magic, we can access the energetic fields that we don't necessarily see, it
Yeah,
is
no,
energetic, right? It's more invisible and yet and also more subtle, that I think is really profound when working with mothers to get onto that subtle level
yeah,
because the brilliance and intuition of mothers is subtle. You are
yeah,
sensing something that your child needs. You're waking up in the middle of the night 30 seconds before your baby cries.
yeah,
It's these subtle things that happen that are highly sophisticated and
uh-huh,
very energetic, right? You're connecting
uh-huh,
with the baby on an energetic level, whether you acknowledge it or not.
yeah,
You know? And same with the body, right? There's all these energy waves that wanna move, and so how is that impacting your work now that you've stepped more into this quantum energetic spinal work? We both do
mhm.
spinal work, of course.
I mean, you inspired me. I think I inspired you, and then you inspired me. I'm like, "What
Yeah.
is Britta doing? Like, I need to
Yeah, we
figure out
nurtured each other's
what is this
paths.
energy doing." Like, "What is this? This looks fun." I'm really, like, in the early phases of integrating this next layer. I would say, like, I've been working with energy, but in terms of, like, working from the energetics to start with and not through, like, the somatic entry of it kind of coming revealing itself and then working with it, but having, like, training in a specific energetic modality, which really it's funny that I say that because really the way I've been trained and the way that this training has evolved is more of me opening up to my own medicine and learning to trust it and listen to it. And yes, there's some techniques and tools in there, but it's really my own medicine and my own medicine channel that's supporting the delivery of the quantum work.
Yeah,
It's really not about me at all.
yeah, it's like a vessel. opens.
just the vessel
These new
that brings
channels,
it
new
through.
channels that open.
Yes, the channels that open. But it supports your liberation, where so often we do healing work. And I think the goal of all healing work is liberation. But at least for me in my healing journey, it's really easy for me to get stuck in like the down, right? It's really easy for me personally. Like I love collapsing. I love like it's easy for me to get depressed. It's easy for me to just like want to sit in my wallow in what's wrong. Like that's been a big pattern that I've had to work on getting myself out of and like learning how to shift that in my nervous system. And I love it down there. Like I love it in the swamp. Like give me that swampy goodness and I will like eat it up all day, you know? I love it.
I'm the same. I'm a big freeze girl. Love a good nervous system freeze.
Right? We all have our patterns. Like maybe you really love being aggressive, you know, or whatever it is for you. But we have our like patterns that our nervous system goes into in survival. And I feel like when you start tapping into the sinal energetics and working with building coherence in the system, you're actually expanding the nervous system and working on rewiring these grooves in a way that's much more simple and makes much more profound shifts with way less effort.
Mm.
You know, and it's like almost like I have a hard time even putting like words to what's happening, but I just know the way that it's really felt in my own body is I feel liberated when my spine is really well taken care of,
Mm.
you know? And when I can have this relationship with my spine and be like, "Oh gosh," you know, I'm like, "Oh, I'm starting to get a little compressed." Like, "Oh, what am I holding in the back of my heart? Oh yeah, maybe I'm feeling a little tight back there." Right? Like, what emotion am I holding back there? You
Yeah.
know, what have I not been paying attention to? What story is my body carrying? You know, and then giving myself personally tools to work on that, right? But I think the more you do that and receive that work, and really even combining it with like somatic tracking and deeper somatic healing, like it creates this foundation for you to have a deeper relationship with your nervous system because you begin to actually feel what it feels like to be liberated, to be free, to like release the tension that's bound in your spine. You're like peeling back the layers. And when you work in the energy fields and you work in the quantum, things shift faster and you're able to get to those ancestral wounds and clear them. And so they don't need to come back. Right. Um,
Yeah, and
and
it is
sometimes you still have to spiral through something, you
yeah,
know, life is a spiral journey, but it's like you're clearing things and able to make much faster shifts than
yes.
otherwise.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is I feel that you kind of I've been on this journey of like kind of increasing complexity, right? And like more degrees and more trainings and all this stuff and the somatics and needing to understand what all the tissues hold and all the associations, these kind of complex systems. And then the energetics kind of swept that aside and said, here's the simple pathway that is kind of based on this higher intelligence that is more simple, more intuitive. I feel like you're saying more profound. And then I love this liberation vision that you're naming of like you kind of get a taste of that liberation. And
Mhm.
I find the body soul still needs sometimes a little bit of repatterning, you
Oh, yes,
know?
of
Like
course. Yeah.
practice living into that more. But it is
Mhm.
true for myself personally and the clients I've worked with this, it's like you've tasted it. You've tasted that
Yeah.
freedom and it unwinds this bound energetic tension that it who knows where it goes, it's off
Yeah.
to somewhere else, and then new possibilities are really available
Yeah.
that I had not ever seen in any other type of
Yeah.
healing, and I had to retrain myself to be like, "It's okay that it's more simple."
Totally. Like, I don't have to work so hard.
Yeah, and I think really even what we're wanting to teach mothers is to activate those channels within themselves, you know? It's like
Yeah.
really be your own channel. Because like, who's
Yeah.
gonna heal a baby better than its own mother?
Yeah.
You know,
Truly.
a baby, whether it's a mild sickness, whether it's chronic stuff, whether it's really serious stuff, mother is the lifeline. Whether we wanna acknowledge it
Yeah.
or not, that's going to
Yeah.
be true, and so if we can
Yeah.
open up some of those potentials, I mean, I know, I've seen it work with my kids, and their
Yeah.
systems are so open energetically, if I just shift 1 or 2 things, it's like 30 seconds or like 2 seconds. I'm like, "Tension's gone. Okay, yeah, it's
I love
amazing."
that.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah. It's powerful work. And well, there's something else I wanted to say about that. Hmm. Oh, I think what was coming up for me when you were saying that is, yes, we get this like liberation, and then it's almost like often you have to like go back through, and then you go back kind of down into it a little bit, and you have to like clean up, right? So it's like you get this liberation, and then you have to go back and you have to make the choice of like, okay, I gotta actually like clean this up in my life. I need to make some changes in my life so that I can be more in line with that, right?
Right.
It like actually shows you what's not working anymore. And
Uh-huh.
so you're like, okay, now I might have to have some hard conversations. I might need to quit my job. I might need to, um, have this hard conversation with my partner, or like, but once you move into more coherence, because our spine is a coherent bridge from, connecting us to the earth and the universe, right? It like brings those universals, the pelvic floor and the crown, right? Bringing it back full circle.
Yep.
Our spine is that bridge, that coherence bridge. And once you feel coherence and you feel what that feels like in your spine and in your body, and then maybe you go out of your session and you start going into your life and you start seeing like, oh my gosh, this is incoherent. This is incoherent. This is not working. Right. And then you start piecing, you have to make these changes in the physical realm to support your life being more coherent.
Yeah.
And so it's like things start to be rearranged through this universal intelligence, both in your spine and your physical body, but then you start to rearrange it in your life. And that's how we are connecting to that deeper soul or soul path, right?
Right.
Through that work
Yeah.
and it's like aligning to your North Star.
Well, and I think what you're describing is really what the quantum and what manifestation are, and I think it can seem
Yeah.
so mystified, kind of like or you see a lot of bastardization of manifestations.
Mhm.
If you just write this every day, you're gonna manifest it. What we're describing here is a full embodied and energetic presence that shifts real patterns. So if you change sort of the invisible realms first, then you have to take the action, right? That's like
Mhm.
the changing of behaviors, the setting of boundaries, the deciding on something else, and then the manifestation of that healing will come through.
Yeah.
The manifestation is just the lived reality of that healing process. And I think what's cool and exciting is that we are seeing a larger consensus around quantum energetic healing and saying like, yeah, this
Yeah.
can happen actually a lot faster and a lot gentler than we ever really thought possible.
Yeah.
And,
Exactly.
maybe without having to re-traumatize by reliving all the
Exactly.
experience, that's another huge one I've seen
Yeah. Like
is
people going for EMDR and then just being like way more
yep,
dysregulated in a time where that's not, I don't know if you've seen that, but that's what I've seen. And I know there's like EMDR is great for a lot of people, so I don't want to like trash talk it. But I think that there are a lot of like trauma healing modalities that actually do more harm than supporting the work. And like, yes, we need to feel, you have to feel it to integrate it, right? But the beautiful thing about the spine work is I feel like you can go into the feeling and the release without the story.
yep,
And so it's not like I'm rehashing my trauma to feel this thing. It's just like, this energy is moving, and all of a sudden I'm crying, right? And maybe you know what the tears are about, but maybe you don't. It doesn't even matter. It's like your body's just experiencing the release that needs to happen. And maybe there's some vision for you in what it's about, but it's just this like beautiful opening of coherent energy
Mhm.
instead of like, let's just stay stuck in the thing and relive it and go over and tell the story over and over and over and over and over and over and over. It's like, that's fucking painful.
It
That
is.
sucks, you
It's
know?
oh my god, it is. It's so true because, thought is kind of our first invisible energy we have to work through to get through that manifestation sequence. And if our thoughts are
Yeah,
looping and spiraling on a story, on a trauma story, on a painful story, on a story we tell ourselves, all these kinds of things, we can't really shift it. And I think the energetic is it's that final step before the
totally.
manifestation where
Yeah,
you're saying if you can shift on the energetic level, now you just
yeah,
take the action and things can come into place.
exactly. Ah, so good.
Because I think
Good.
it's hard to explain the quantum, and
It
I
is.
think
It
people
really
have some
is.
hesitation around it, and understandably
Totally.
so. It
Yeah,
sounds
it sounds woo
and it's
or
misused.
beyond. Yeah. Yeah,
Like
exactly.
anything in the spiritual
Yeah,
community,
can
but
be. Yeah.
anything spiritual should be able to have a grounded, practical application, and that's to me my little check box. I'm so excited for all the clients who are gonna receive this wisdom from you, and I'm
Yep.
just
Thank
so
you.
grateful all the wisdom you're sharing through the Birthing Soul app, the Fluid Core series, and just imbuing your energetic imprint into this. And so, thank you for being here, for sharing all of your wisdom, and there's more to come.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I feel so grateful that you invited me on this project and to be able to share this with everyone and to spread this message far and wide and really to like bring this care into someone's life in a really accessible way and this medicine and this wisdom. And this is just so special. So thank you for your vision and for trusting me to be part of it.
Thank you so much.
Okay. You're welcome.